Welcome to the Wise Dome podcast, a series that is so much more than just a podcast series. This is a movement towards a lifestyle you know you deserve. It's all about the ease of inspiring and sharing your knowledge and experiences online. I'm your host, Nikki Kelly, and I have always admired those who share their wisdom, those who have decided to inspire others. Just like my guests, I found my version of inspiring others by sharing my wisdom and created a lifestyle I wanted, and I'm going to share all the secrets for how you can too. On this show, you'll find inspiration, motivation, and advice from experts, as well as valuable tips on how to get started or improve your business. Let's dive into how you can begin and grow your wisdom business. Remember, inspiring others looks different for everyone. How will you inspire? Today, we're very lucky to chat to Rachael Poffenroth. Rachael learned to rebuild herself with integrity and find herself after some major challenges that were thrown her way. Rachael's mission now is to help her clients enjoy the human experience and stop experiencing failure, struggle, suffering, and pain. Rachael, welcome to the Wise Dome podcast.
Wonderful. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Lovely having you here. Now, I've read your bio, and I must say that you certainly have been thrown a few challenges, which I guess has provided you with many lessons and experiences that allows you to obviously relate with your clients on many levels.
Yeah, that was the key. And even going through it, I continue to say to my kids, it's the bigger the challenge, the bigger the calling. And they kept saying to me, Mom, why can't we just be normal? Yeah. I was like, oh no, this is great, And so even though I was in the midst of it and it was hard and emotionally I did struggle, but at the same time, I was able to pull myself out of it. So I had two perspectives going, most of the time. And I was able to say, okay, what is really going on here? Because I know that there's more than this. This is more than the average person does go through. So obviously I've signed up for some really big stuff and I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. So somehow I'm going to get through this, right? And so that was my lighthouse that pulled me forward. That was my beacon, was just keep on going, and see what is going to reveal once this is over, what's going to be revealed for me.
So with, obviously, you don't have to dive into it or anything like that, but, if you've got a little summary about yourself that you'd like to let our audience know about.
Well, I would say I had, two major lifelines running at the same time where I was very successful in a lot of areas, but at the same time, I was feeling like an absolute failure. So I was always an overachiever. My kids said that I was extra, but it was always because I was trying to look to the outside world for validation and to get those accolades and to get the awards, because to me, that was my interpretation of love. I really wasn't shown a true version of what love is growing up. I was raised mostly by a single dad who was a farmer and with my brother. So I grew up with a lot of masculine energy. That was my zone. That was where I was comfortable. My mom ditched out when I was young. And so I had a lot of judgments against being female.
Right.
And so I didn't even want to look like a female when I started getting curves and stuff. And I was just like, oh man, I'm now not part of my tribe, of my brother tribe right now. I look different. And so I grew up working on machinery and doing all the hard labor. And that was my world. And so straight out of high school, and I graduated with high honors, I was always overachieved. Straight out of high school, I wanted to I was registered into med school because I wanted to be ER surgeon. And I thought, okay, if I'm a surgeon, right, I'm saving people's lives, I'll get those accolades, I'll get the awards, I'll be able to help people, I'll be able to, it was a lot of still trying to be in a man's world and also to get that validation. And I wouldn't say that it was ever a true desire. There was a desire to heal, but it was still kind of mixed with other thoughts and other motivations. And then after that, I got pregnant. So the reason that didn't happen was I got pregnant with my first son, and I actually even had him, up for adoption because so much I wanted to make my family proud of me. But 2 days in the hospital and I was like, no, that little man's coming home with me. And he changed my life in so many ways, but I am so thankful for him. And I'm thankful that I got him as my first one because he was an angel child. So he made it easy for me. Oh, and then after that, then I got 3 girls and they're just a whole lot crazier. But then after that, I went into financial services and I became president of a financial company and had a great income. And, I loved it. It was a language I really learned to speak really easily. I was able to network and fit into it quite well, even at a young age. But what the problem was, I started noticing that it was an old man's club and they were kind of doing offshore accounts. And as I was kind of sniffing it out a little bit, I would ask questions and they didn't want me in the board meetings anymore. And then they started scaling back what my access was until one day I walked in and they said, "We don't need your services anymore." And I was just like, okay, well, now what, right? I'm a single mom. And at that point I had 2 kids and I was thought I was doing all the things. I had a nanny who looked after my kids when I couldn't be there because there was, 12, 14-hour days. But it was an interesting wake up call because my body shut down and I felt like I was trapped inside of a body that didn't work. So I went from being super healthy and feeling like I was absolutely on top of the world in every way. My accounts got absolutely locked out because of some flow throughs I had purchased. And so the government was scaling back on those. And it was just like every area of my life was just bling, 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 just shutting down. And I'm sitting here, I was like, what is going on? What is the purpose of this? Please pull me out of this and show me what the meaning is here. And it didn't stop there. I mean, it just kept going. There was a couple of years of turmoil where it got deeper and deeper and deeper. And then because I was just looking for some lifeline out of that, then I got into a relationship with the guy who I was with for 10 years. And it was an emotionally not healthy relationship. But it was, again, me looking for some kind of validation, right? And the little nuggets that he would give me and then take it away with his really mean comments. It was really derogatory. But the beautiful thing was, which there's always so much beauty in it, is that I learned so much about myself in that relationship. And we started a roofing company together. So again, I'm back into the man's world and I'm still bending over backwards for this guy who was so mean to me. But the cool thing was he would be talking to me and cutting me down. And I got to step back and be in my own mind and go, am I going to accept this as truth, what he's saying about me? Or do I believe something different?
Right.
And there was definitely days where, unfortunately, I allowed it to be the truth of the moment. Right. And those were the days where it would cut me to the core. And like on my bio, I'm very open about it. I did struggle with suicide. But once it was the third time that it happened. And when that happened, I find something clicked in me and was like, okay, if I've attempted it 3 times and it hasn't happened. And I've gone through all this stuff. There is a definite purpose here. So I choose to go on to the journey of discovering what is my purpose. And so that was a complete life changer. I continued. The kids asked me, why are you still in this relationship? You're so unhappy. And I told them it's because I don't feel like I've learned my lesson yet. I don't feel released. And so now his name on my phone, I've changed it to teacher. We now have a good relationship, much better than ever. But going through that, I had to learn who I was. And it is just that proverbial image of the lotus flower growing through the manure, right? It's just, I had to really root down. And I am so thankful for that experience of learning who I was and not having anything now that can sway me or deter me. I know where my value lies, and anybody can try and challenge me now at this point where it's just like, no, I know who I am. And I feel so secure in that. And coming from a place of feeling like I was a failure all the time and feeling like I could never, line up to what other people wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And feeling like I just wasn't a good enough mom. And like on the outside, everybody thought I had it, together because yeah, I painted a pretty good picture of my life, right? We had a healthy, happy family and everybody looked good, but inside I was falling apart. And so that experience, because I stayed in it for so long, because I didn't jump out of it, I really wanted to unpattern some of the stuff. I was aware enough to go, okay, I'm seeing patterns here. I've attracted the same situations more than once. I'm going to stick in this one until I learn these lessons. And I did. And it wasn't until that day when I finally said to him, we need to grow. And both of us are kind of stagnating as who we are, and we're not evolving past this place. So I need space to grow. I've now kind of, I've outgrown the pot, because it's like, a flower that needs to be transplanted. I knew at that point, absolutely, I had outgrown it and I was ready for the next the next leg of the journey. And so then, things became a little different and a little bit easier. But at the same time, the crazy thing about life is there will always be a growth experience for you, but it's always an invitation to grow. Those challenges are invitations to grow. And if you are willing to walk into it, there's so much value that comes out of being in that place. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but you sit in it for long enough and eventually you do get through it. That's the point of life, right? Life, if you actually look up the definition of life, it's growth and evolution. And just as any plant knows, that's what the point of life is. But so many humans, we forget that. Even amoebas that have no brain, they understand the point of life is to grow and evolve. But we as humans, we're fine stagnating. And then we end up with, like I was, struggling with suicide, or other people who struggle with depression. It's like, coming from with my medical intuitive background, depression is just a symptom of something in your life being suppressed. There's a calling and you're not allowing yourself to explore it and to express yourself in the way that your soul is asking you to be expressing.
That is an amazing journey that you've gone on.
Yeah, that's a really good Reader's Digest version of it.
You look at the strength, listening to that, all I hear is the strength that's come out of it, and the willingness to, look for signs, look for answers, and just ask those questions yourself. There's got to be a way through this. There's got to be, keeping that, that drive there and that energy and that, it's an amazing story. And bringing all of that now, obviously, all together, and to who you actually, when you got to that point of, I need to share this with other people and inspire other people from all the experiences that you've gone through, and sharing that wisdom and those lessons. How did you actually start your wisdom business? What steps did you take to get to that point?
Well, it's interesting because before I went into the financial services world, I actually had been a mindset coach for elite athletes. So I kind of already had started on this journey where I was already interested in this. When I was 16, my dad took me to a Bob Proctor seminar. So I was very young when I got exposed to this stuff. And so I was always wondering, what else do I not know? What other truths are there out there? So I grew up in a very religious and confined home. I went through, very private schooling where I was inundated with more of the same. I grew up with a very tight family that definitely influenced how I was raised. So as soon as he took me to that first seminar, something woke up in me. And when I started doing the mindset stuff with these elite athletes, then I was able to see a trend that carried over into when I started doing business growth consulting. And what I found was it doesn't matter if they're a high-level executive or if they were an athlete, they still were motivated by external forces. A very few of them wanted to be doing what they were doing. Most of them were doing it for somebody else, or they were doing it to impress somebody else or whatever, right? So, and they would share that with me, right? We would get into some of that gritty stuff of, why are you doing this? I can see that, you're not really lit up by it. And there's no amount of mindset coaching that I can work with you here that's going to encourage you to be more excited about what you're doing. Yeah. And it was, it's because my dad wants me to, or it's, the executives would be, I can't have my family fall apart. I mean, no, I don't want to do this. I really want to be an author. And it was just like, well, you're a long ways from that. But to take that leap and to walk away from the life that they had, they would disappoint their wife, which most of the time they were in a relationship they weren't happy with. And, it was just like they would watch their world crumble, and they just were not at that place where they were willing to take those steps. And so it was just, a lot of times the conversation would just go into, just do your job, right? Don't get into this stuff. But I started noticing in me those same attributes, right? Where I started seeing, I'm going to the external world and looking for validation. I'm doing this for other reasons. I'm in these places and I can hear, it was almost like I felt like I was living a dual life where I could feel what my calling was, but at the same time, I was still trying to do what I thought the world needed me to do. Right? Yeah. And so that was where it started. And it was actually a couple of decades ago when I started in that world. And so my message changed. And then when I was in that relationship, I just kind of went into a turtle shell. I went into almost hiding in so many areas of my life where I would just peek out where I felt like it was safe to peek out. And through that, like I said, I was able to grow, and I was also able to change my message. So no longer was I saying, overpower your thoughts, overcome your fears.
Yeah. Put layers above layers. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't that anymore. It wasn't, do more, try harder, push through it. The message then became, if you realize what your value is, you're motivated from internally. And once you do that, then you begin to radiate who you are. And that attracts, partnerships or a raise or, the right relationships for you. Then people can see your value, and it's so much more attractive. Like you can walk into a restaurant and you can see the people who know their value versus those that are, artificially almost trying to sell themselves. Right. And you can spot those people because their confidence, it just radiates out of them. They know who they are. They know their value. And so that, even though I've been in this coaching world for a long time, my message has definitely changed because I've realized that it doesn't work just to keep pushing. Eventually, you're going to push up against a wall that's going to push back like mine did in my world, and things are going to fall apart because the universe is going to do what it has to do to get your attention. If you're off track, it's going to get you on track.
Yeah. So obviously then you've gone having that prior experience, talking to people, basically having that little transformation, well, not little, big transformation for yourself, but also offering other people opportunities to transform as well, and through your guidance and coaching and so forth. When you actually decided to actually like really step out and say, I'm starting this business and I'm going to coach. Now, if anyone out there, any of our audience is listening and they're trying to work out how to become a coach, quite similar in the sense of mindset and so forth, what way did you actually speak to your audience, and how did you speak to your audience when you were trying to build up that profile of yourself?
In the beginning, I was so afraid of being visible. So I would totally understand where anybody's coming from. I got certified as a life coach twice over with 2 different programs, because the first one I was like, I don't feel confident enough yet. So then I bought another program, right? And I did that whole one, and I tried to do their system. And again, it wasn't me, because what I feel is that there's so much information out there that's do it my way according to my map. Like this is what worked for me. Whereas right now there's so many different ways to go about getting an audience. You can do it in person. You can do it online. You can do it, you can focus on Facebook. You can focus on TikTok. You can focus on Instagram, wherever your people seem to hang out. You can do a mix of both. You can do one-on-one calls. You can do memberships. Like there's so much variety, and it really has to fit with your personality and also with your time availability. Like I'm also an ultra marathon runner. And so I put in crazy amounts of training for 6 months of the year. Like I'll be out running in the mountains for a training run for 4 hours, but it also takes me, an hour of driving each way. And I'm a mom, and that, and I like take summers off. So my style has to fit with my life. And for me, when I first got started, I went through it I started doing, I had a Facebook group, and I grew the numbers within the Facebook group. A lot of it started out, of course, with a lot of friends and that kind of thing. They joined right away. And then I did my first Facebook live, I did a 7-day live challenge, and I was petrified. I remember crying before the first call, and then just being absolutely nervous. And actually, what was funny? There wasn't a lot of people who watched it live, lots of people who watched it afterwards, because I have to work during the day if I want quietness, right? Yeah. Because I've got young kids at home, and they're noisy and they're demanding. And so that I have to work that around my schedule. So I also have to understand if I'm working during the day, so are other people, and they may not be online, but people did watch it afterwards. But I got to the 6th day, and I remember saying, I don't think there's any point in even doing the 7-day. Like, does anybody even care? And it was so funny. I did the 7-day and I had more people on the 7-day than I had like the rest of them combined.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like,
you.
no, that's why you don't give up. If you say you're doing
That's
7 days,
amazing.
people are watching.
Yeah.
And that changed everything for me because I went, okay, I did it. Now what? What's the next step? What else can I do? Right. And so I did have to take a breather because what happens is we try and, up level to a different version of us.
Yes.
And when you do that, you have to let go of some of those beliefs that would have held you in that other safe place, right? So now you have to make a new safe level. And what are those beliefs that are going to support that? And so as you're evolving, things do come up. And I say, that we have 3 phases when we go try and do anything. We have phase 1, which is the super fun, excited phase where you can see how everything's going to work out blissfully.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's exciting. And then you get into phase 2 and it feels like challenges are coming at you at every area. But really what it is the universe is showing you, hey, listen, you got to see this because you can't take that belief into the next level. So I'm going to show you where it's going to trip you up so we can get it out of the way because it wants to validate you as being the creator that you are, right? But it can't if you're so stuck and committed to this belief that you're holding on to about yourself, right? Of I'm not, like for me, I am not here to be visible, right? I was fine. I was so good at promoting other people's businesses, but to promote my own, I just couldn't do it. Yeah, it just was not me, but I knew it was just something I had to work through. And so when people come to me and they say, well, how do I get started? How do I know what my thing is? What I tell everybody, like I've been through it all. I've taken so many courses of how do I figure out what my purpose is, right? And people always say, well, you figure out, what it is that you love to do and those kinds of things. What I tell people, it is so much bigger than that. Figure out what your biggest challenge is. Figure out where you feel the most uncomfortable. Figure out where you were criticized or where you told to stay small and stay in your small box. That is where you're going to be the most powerful because that's your biggest growth point. And that's where you're going to be able to tell people the steps of how to get out of that place because that's a real problem. If you're experiencing it, other people are experiencing it. So for me, it was about finding my value and becoming comfortable being visible. And now that I am, it's fun. I love who I am now. But when I had to go through that growth experience, it really wasn't very much fun. It's the proverbial, metamorphosis of I had to be broken right down to those imaginal cells. And if you look at imaginal cells, it's pure gook. Like there's nothing that signifies that's a caterpillar. You have no idea, right? Yeah. Or that it's becoming a butterfly. Yeah. It's just this gooey mush. So that's really what our life kind of goes through is this little, we go through phase 2. And then phase 3 is the awesome part where you get to realize I did it. I actually am that person and I actually am powerful enough to become who I desire to be. Yeah. But so many people, they focus so much on, like they set goals, right? And it's all about, I want to do this because, or I want to become that person because I want to have this, or I need to make more money so I can have a nicer car, a bigger house or whatever. And I tell people, like that, there's 3 levels that you can work in. So there's a physical level, which is like chipping away at an iceberg. It's a lot of work. And it always feels like you're taking something away from somebody else. If you achieve something, then you might be, taking in some way, reducing somebody's, whatever it is, their assets, right? And then there's the next level up, which is the being state or the doing state. And when we're in doing state, this is me, we're so focused on trying to do all the things, especially in the world where there's affirmations and vision boards and meditation and visualization. And it's like, I'm doing all the things, but I'm still not getting what I want. And people get so stuck on that stage. But really I explain it that it's kind of like a stream. And when you look at a stream, it's really not completely free flowing because there's still confines on either side of it. And those confines are people. So you're still expecting people to be supporting you. And if they're not, then you think there's something wrong with you. Yes. So you can flow a little bit better than you can as an iceberg, but it's still not free flowing. If you move up into the being state and you just focus on being the person who you want to be, you don't feel that sense of failure, success, grading system quite as much. And being is kind of like steam or vapor, right? It can move so freely. And so one day I can choose to be, somebody who is an international speaker. And the next day I can choose to just be a mom who gets to cuddle and love on her kids. And if I give myself permission to just be flowing in that being state, then I'm not grading myself against, well, I didn't get the house because, and I've been working at this and I've been doing all the things and I've been visualizing, right? I didn't do it. So you don't have that same success for failure grading system as you do when you're just in being state. Being state is just all about being in flow and just kind of going with wherever you feel drawn to, because it's the same, right? Even in business, I'm a to-do person. I have a to-do list. And so this has been a big learning thing for me because I'm very A-type and let's get it done and high energy, right?
Yeah.
So I'll make my list and then I'll feel into it. And it's like, what is of my highest for me to do today? And because there's always so much to do that you get to choose. And what is it that lights me up? Today, I feel like working on writing my book. I feel like that creative juices are coming out of me. Or today I feel more like doing some more techie stuff. So I'm going to go and work on SEOing my YouTube videos or, working on some background stuff on the website or, there's always things you can do. Some days I feel like really interrelational. So I'll message, followers that day and I'll just sit there and vibe with them and try and encourage them and be the light for them. So there's always different ways that we can flow. But at the end of the day, I'm still being that person who is like my calling. I'm being a lighthouse in one way or another, right? So we always line up still to what our truest value is. And mine is to be that lighthouse that guides people back home to the truth of who they are. Yes. So whatever that looks like, there's different aspects of it. But at the end of the day, I don't go to bed anymore saying, I didn't accomplish all the things on my to-do list. So I'm a failure, which means that my business is going to fail, which means that I'm going to fail, right? I don't layer on those judgments anymore. It's just today I got up, I got to explore the adventure of it, and I got to be that version of me today. We really need to take those confines off of our mental thinking and the way that we relate to the world of pass and fail. And we do it to ourselves all the time.
Yeah. And it's interesting you saying that, because I was actually having a conversation yesterday. It's just a common line that always comes up, that are we working to live or are we living to work? What's your choice? And, for me, I had to sort of break that down again and say, well, it's not work to me because I find love in everything that I do. And, it's a matter of just listening to yourself, I think, and everything that you're saying now, what I'm gaining from that. And you did give me a few goosebumps there along the way talking about some things. I was like, personally, I find that, wake up every day, and I've got my to-do list as well. And I have my things. I'm like, God, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And yes, sometimes there's time constraints that, probably should get this out soon and things like that. So yeah, I've got to drop what I really want to do and actually concentrate what I have to do. But I limit those moments because for me, waking up every morning and my kids come first, I drop them off at school, do all these things, and they're the priority. And knowing that I took on, the opportunity, because I call it an opportunity, because for me to be able to share wisdom or to even just talk to other people about what they do when they're inspiring others and so forth, it's just, I love it. And I'll do anything I can to just get in that conversation if I can. I get really grumpy if I don't get to talk to people, and just learn more about other people because I love it. But the point I'm trying to really make here is listening to myself and listening, if anyone, obviously you are a fantastic coach, and just in those short words that you mentioned just there, I actually gained a lot of insight there, but reminders as well of if you are going to go on this path and share your wisdom and start a business and go online and take those, recognize the challenges as opportunities to grow. And we all, I can tell you now, we all have that moment of, oh, Facebook Live, don't really want to do that. And look, I'm on podcast, and everyone keeps telling me, I'm a founder of a tech company and we're about to launch a platform. And, people say, you've got to get your face out there. And I said, but that's okay. I'll get my voice out there first. I feel more comfortable with that, and so the podcast is out here. So for me, it's just, discovering what you feel comfortable with, but also challenging yourself to really get out there. And I love those words that, you just take it as it goes. When you actually took on let's say, you're in your business, you've taken on your first client, was there a moment that you actually recall or remember where you saw the inspiration in whom you were talking to? Like, was there a moment there where you went,
oh yeah,
this is it?
It's what lights me up. It's why I won't do, I create courses for people, but I always do it with live calls. I will never just leave a course on my website for somebody to take. And if I do, it's just, it's free. I won't even charge for it, because for me, that's what lights me up, is having people on or talking to clients and just seeing that light bulb moment go off. And the one thing that I find that lights people up so much is when I give them permission to give them own selves permission, when they start realizing how much they've bought into somebody else's version of who they should be. And, it comes from little things, like when you're a child and you say, I'm hungry, and your parents say, no, you can wait. Dinner's going to be in, half an hour. Or you put your hand up at school and I need to go to the washroom. No, you can wait. And so these people who are providers, they almost like become like our first gods, because they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, they seem smarter. So we must be wrong. And right there, we start overriding our internal guidance system, and we start abandoning who we think that we are. And we stop giving ourselves permission to speak up for our needs right there. Right. And then we go through school and we become even more conditioned, and, can I get a drink of water? No, you can wait, and then you start being told more and more of how to think and how to act, to the point where, there would be times when you're going out of the house and the parents are like, okay, you need to change. Otherwise, people are going to think this, right? And it's just, it's just little things, but it's conditioning. And it comes from not just their moral code. And that's one thing that really wakes people up is, oh, I'm believing somebody else's moral code, where mine, what I was raised with, was probably different from what your moral code that you were raised with, right? Yeah. More or less the same. But still, I'm sure there was some variation. But where the moral code actually comes from is not what's right and wrong. It's actually what was safe and what was not safe, because we're still governed by that primal brain that says, if I do something wrong, I'm going to be kicked out of the tribe. And what happens when you're kicked out of the tribe? Then you're out there in the wilderness trying to fend for yourself. So that's our biggest fear, right? Is to always be accepted and included into our tribe. So we'll do anything. And that's the crazy part, is that that's really where judgment comes from. That's our self-protection mechanism, is we're always on the lookout for the threat. Yeah. But the crazy thing is we start seeing parts of ourselves as a threat, where we hide and abandon and reject parts of ourselves without being willing to show it to the world. And it's so amazing, because I always ask people, I really teach self-value, which is like self-love at a next level, right? But people don't really know what self-love even is. And I didn't for a long time. I thought, okay, well, yeah, that's that self-care stuff. I'm not really into massages. It's not really my thing. I don't need to spa day, right? And, in a way it's good, but that's not the definition of self-love. And so I always say to people, if you really want to know what you think about yourself, what's the first thought that you think when you look in the mirror? And most of the time, you're going to pick yourself apart, right? It's something is, oh, I look so tired today. Oh, my wrinkles are coming out. Or, oh, wow, I got to do something with this hair. Or, it's not good morning, sunshine, right? It's very rarely that. And it's like, where does that come from? And it's just that self-protection mechanism of always looking for the threat. But the sad thing is that we see our own selves as the threat to being kicked out of our own tribes, out of our family circles, out of our friends circles, out of our workplace circles. And so we hide.
Wrong. Yeah.
Yes. And so we hide aspects of ourselves, or we judge ourselves, or we beat ourselves up, right? Oh, well, my thighs are too big, so I can't hang out with, this running club because I'm afraid of what they'll think of me, or, whatever it is, right? We make these silly ideas. Yeah. And the crazy part is, if you really realize how little people are thinking about
noticing that. Yeah.
Like they're all in their own head doing the same thing. Yeah. So they're not thinking it anyways, right? If you realize that, it kind of sets you free. But the second part is just, you're free to make your own decisions. Like you're free to express yourself, because the moral code I was raised by is probably came from the moral code of my grandparents. And if that's where I'm living from, I'm like living the 60s now. That doesn't really fit anymore, right? We have a little bit more movement. We have a little bit more expression. I was raised very traditional, but so I've broken through a lot of those boundaries. But that's the same thing, right? Is becoming free to fly, becoming your butterfly, showing off your wings. If you're a butterfly, you can't sit there with your wings hidden all the time. Get out there, show your colors. And I tell my clients, like, it's like when you look at like a rainbow and it has 7 different colors. A rainbow isn't one color. It's not all yellow in the sky. It's got the yellow and the indigo and, magenta and stuff. And so that's who we are. We're all those aspects. And so one thing I get my clients to do is write down all 7 of those and give yourself permission to do those at least once a week. But if you can do it daily for 15 minutes, right? Like, say you love painting, but you have just kind of put that to the side. Start painting again, even if it's just for 15 minutes, because it's a muscle, an atrophied muscle for most of us, because we keep on trying to do all these things for everybody else and living according to everybody else's moral code and what the rules are for each tribe, that this muscle isn't strong. And so once we start to say, you're worth it, I'm prioritizing me just for 15 minutes or half an hour, whatever it is. I love to sing. I love to dance, whatever your thing is.
Yep.
What happens is it's like a little seed in the ground, and it kind of starts, when you do that, it's like the sunshine, it starts beating on it, right? And it starts to ask it to grow. And so it finally starts to germinate. And that's, life being ignited within you. And then you'll start to realize, I really enjoy how that feels. I really like doing those things. And then it becomes the beacon where it's like, I want to do more of that. That feels so good compared to this life that I'm living right now that seems so void of pleasure. And we're here to enjoy things. We're here for pleasure. We're here for the adventure and for the experience. So get out there and do more of those things that light you up. And that's like that's probably the number one thing I say to people, but that's when the light bulb goes on in them. They go, yeah, I could do that. It's only 15 minutes. It's not like I'm saying, get to the gym and work out for an hour every day. You're used to being sitting on the couch. Yeah. It's doable, right? It's 15 minutes. You used to love it. Just invite yourself back into that space of just playing again for a little bit, because we become so atrophied in that world where it's just like, we don't really even know what pleasure is. And if pleasure becomes only a massage, or pleasure only becomes getting your nails done or whatever is, your pleasure, then you're kind of lacking the ability to do that for yourself, because you're always requiring somebody else to be there to do it for you. But once you start doing it for yourself and you have those quiet moments and, oh, what can I do in this moment for myself? What happens is you're prioritizing yourself, and the universe is just a giant mirror, right? And then as you show up for yourself, the universe starts to bring people into your world that show up for you. And I've heard so many amazing stories where people are just like, I didn't realize the power of this. But on day 3, all of a sudden I got a call from a loan that I've been waiting for, and they said yes. And all I've been doing is painting. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Yes. And that's exactly what happens. Like, it's literally that fast. We live in such a responsive universe. And the answer is always yes. Yeah. But we have to be aware of what message we're sending out and what it's saying yes to. Are you saying, I'm a victim and life is against me? The universe is going to say yes and give you more of that. Or are you saying, I'm prioritizing me today for 15 minutes or for half an hour, or on the weekend, I'm going to spend, half an hour or half the day going for a hike because I love hiking and I have forgotten how much I love hiking. And then all of a sudden, things just start showing up. And that's what I tell people. That's what your miracle frequency is. That's how you vibe up to that miracle frequency, is we have to give ourselves permission to even be on that level where the universe can start saying yes to you. But if you're not sending out messages of, I'm valuable, I am worthy, I'm deserving, and showing it. I say to people, don't affirm things. I say it's an affirmation. Use your actions. Show the universe how much it means to you. Show the universe that you are valuable by prioritizing that for you. And when you do that, breakthrough happens. every single time. I don't have a single client yet that has been like, nope, doesn't work. It's usually within 3 to 7 days, they'll come back to be like, I can't believe this had happened. Yeah. This person called me out of the blue, or I got a raise, or whatever it is. I just really encourage people. Once you show your value, once you're willing to express it, it always gets shown back to you. So it's just a perfect mirror.
Yeah. It's recognizing, isn't it? Taking that, making that choice to recognize yourself. And you know what? I said to my husband the other day, I haven't laid down on the grass. It's like it sounds like a sign. I haven't laid down on the grass probably for about 40 years, since I was a little kid. And the other day we were in the backyard and we have this huge gum tree in our backyard and all the rosellas were out. And I love the sound of the rosellas. Some people don't. I love them. And I was just out there just having, a cup of tea, just chilling between, tasks. And the sun was out and I just said to Joe, my husband was going back inside and I said, I'm just going to sit out here for a bit longer. And there was shade on the grass at a particular spot. And I was in my singlet and I actually get allergic to grass. I got a bit of a rash. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I laid down on the grass, nothing underneath me, and looked up at the birds in the tree and just watched them for about 10 minutes. I was so bloody relaxed. And it was so nice to just sit there and just take a moment for myself. And I was lying there and I'm thinking, I need to do this more often. I need to just go do it. And, you mentioning about painting, I do paint as well. I love painting. And those moments where I sit there and it's happened a few times where I've just sort of taken time out on a weekend or whatever and just said, I'm just going to paint a little bit here and there. And my daughter will just come up and start bringing out all her stuff. And she goes, can I come and sit with you? Of course you can, and she starts painting and doing her thing. And then, the little one, my son comes out, he's 3 years old. I want to paint too. So it just becomes this whole thing. But it's just nice when you do take those moments. And when you're mentioning just take time for yourself.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And you know what I love so much about what you just reflected was how you're showing your children how to give yourself permission, which then gives them permission. That's not the way that we were raised. We were raised with parents that were still being indoctrinated by that prior era that said, women need to look perfect and be perfect. And, like even in housekeeping, right? It was just like, make sure that when your husband comes home, you have fresh lipstick on and your children are clean. And, and that generation then passed that on to what our parents did. And so they also didn't feel as free to give themselves permission just to be them. And so with us, like, it's beautiful how you're sitting down and painting and the kids are seeing that and going, Mama's given herself time right now. And, they also get to join in, but they're internalizing that of how important it is to have enjoyment in life. It's not just all about work. It's not just all about, achieving and all those kinds of things. There's so much more substance that comes from when you give yourself permission to listen and to be redirected slightly. And so I love that story. That's beautiful.
Having this conversation with you, hopefully, and people listening will hopefully realize that there's no rule. There really isn't any rule when it comes to actually starting or taking that step. The only rule I can suggest is do not compare yourself to anybody else, because as soon as you compare yourself to other people, all these other rules start coming in. You start giving yourself barriers and boundaries and why aren't I doing this and why aren't I doing that? And I think, if you listen to yourself and see that, what you have is an amazing gift to share, and that gift is from all your experiences, whether they're good or bad, mixed together, they're all good, really, in the end.
Yes.
I think, the influences that you might find that from outside, they might help direct you in how you share your knowledge. And yes, you can share your knowledge through wisdom, through memberships and courses and coaching and so forth. But I think as soon as you find yourself first, listen to yourself, feel what you're comfortable with, but still give yourself challenges so you can grow and evolve. You'll see the steps almost just coming. Everything looks like it's a bit cloudy and all the rest of the smog's there and so forth. You have no idea what direction you're going to go into, but sooner or later it just starts dissipating and you'll be like, okay, I can see that step, I know where I'm going now. And things will start opening up to you. And I just talking to you today has been wonderful. Just, it's only been a short period of time I've been talking, but I've loved our conversation. And yes, we didn't talk a lot about your own wisdom business, but we did talk about being ourselves and starting something, and everything that you've done in your past and what you provide to people, hopefully our listeners, captured that information in there. That is just very powerful. It really is.
Yeah, that's very much my business. Is like I said, my job is to give people breath for their wings, right? It's not, most of the self-help industries is figuring out, they monetize off of helping you find coping mechanisms about staying small, staying in your limited world. And I'm not going to do that. I am not that person. I am here to help people, find your wings, feel comfortable being out there, feel comfortable opening them up and showing your wings. I'm not going to help you feel good about staying small, because that's not what we're here to do. We are here to live, to evolve, and to grow. And so I will be your biggest cheerleader journey on that way. But to go that way, I feel it's a big disservice to help somebody feel comfortable staying in their small, limited zone when that's not what we're here for.
Yeah. Did you ever have a moment that, okay, maybe what I'm doing isn't getting through or isn't working, and you might have changed the way you actually coached or, ran your business? Is there anything that ever popped up like that? So you evolved yourself in your own business?
Oh yeah, it has definitely evolved. And there was a time, like even what my focus is on, I allow myself even to evolve in that, right? I know at the core, I'm an intuitive soul guide. And that's straight across the board in whatever area I'm helping people. And I'm very intuitive, and I can, feel people's energy, and I can figure out what they're saying or what they're not saying, despite the words that they're using. And so even with my courses, like some people, I say I'm a relationship coach, or I'm a money coach, or whatever. And to me, I'm not one of those things. I create courses for all different aspects. I'll help you find your value. And then another month, I might offer a course about how to really discover how to monetize your worth. And then another month, I might help you, find how the perfect relationship by discovering what's really important to you in a relationship and really honing in on that. And so, yeah, it absolutely, I let myself evolve, because I think that's another thing that people feel that they've been taught from the coaching industry is figure out what your niche is and stick to it. But yeah, I really don't believe that, because your listeners are evolving. They've got their needs are evolving. And I feel that to really serve them, you also have to evolve. You have to constantly be growing. You have to constantly be learning new things. And as a coach, what you really want to do is you really want to teach people. You really want to inspire them. So how can you inspire them if you're stagnant? You have to stay dynamic. You have to stay in that evolutionary state. And so for me, it's always discovering what the next level of limitless looks like for me. And then how can I teach that in a way that my children, who are the younger ones, are 8 and 10, how can I teach it to them? And if I can teach it to them, then I have made it simple enough that the average person can understand it, right? So that to me is one of my challenges, is how can I take these more advanced concepts and really explain them in a way that, a grade 5 child could understand it. And if I can do that, then I feel you've got something. But if you're just regurgitating things that are already out there, what it really is you're just regurgitating the past, right? If you're reading a book and then you say, oh, I'm going to teach this book, the concepts in this book, it's like, well, build off of it, make it yours, right? Just take what you've learned from it, put your own stories into it, put your flavor into it, because that's what people are attracted to, is the you. It's your essence, your flavor. And it doesn't matter if you go into the relationship world, they're going to listen. And it doesn't matter if you go into the money world, they're going to listen. Like if they're attracted to your energy, to your flavor, they're going to be excited. And that's why I find that a lot of coaches struggle with drop off, is because they're not growing anymore. They're not evolving. Their message isn't changing, and people have heard it. And so they're just like, okay, well, that was good, but I'm moving on now.
To the next step. Yeah. And then
I do think it's important.
You're best known, obviously your high vibe energy that you provide to, your audience and anyone around you. Why do you think people resonate with the way you actually approach your teachings?
I think it's because my biggest thing is to validate what they know about themselves. And so finally, I'm becoming a mirror and saying, yes, you can do that. And yes, I'm giving you permission to do that. And yes, you can take these steps and this is how you do it. And don't expect to know the whole thing. Like that's the other problem is people think, well, if I can't see the end result, if I can't see the whole chess game, then I don't want to step into it. But that's the excitement of it. I think that's a lot of like what I teach comes from the adventure and the excitement and waking up every day into a new unknown. Like if you were to buy a car, you're not going to go take mud and stick it on your brand new car, but that's what we do every single day. We wake up and we go, okay, I'm going to the same job. And then we take all those experiences that we've experienced at that job and put them on today, expecting today to be exactly the same, but we don't have to. It's like an Etch-a-Sketch. It's brand new every time you shake it. And that's what the day is. It's a brand new reset, right? You want to keep your car clean. So keep your car clean, enjoy that clean car and switch up to a new clean car or whatever. But just enjoy the newness of what's available in every moment. I think that's the biggest thing that they resonate with me because I'm not saying fix your past, discover your limiting beliefs. I have done that stuff. I have provided courses for that, but I'm not pounding on it saying you need to fix yourself before you can do what it is that you want to do. I'm saying go find what lights you up and do it for a little bit every day, starting today, even as you who think that you're broken or who think that there's something wrong with you. You can still go and paint. You can still go and sing. You can still go and dance. Go do those things that make you feel good. And I think that's the biggest thing is people just think, I'll do it later. I'll do it when I'm fixed. I'll do it when I make the money. I'll do it when, and they always like put it off. They future project with everything. But for me, I'm giving them permission just to be them. And finally they go, I can do that. Yeah, I can fit that into my schedule. Yes, I can prioritize myself.
I don't have to procrastinate.
Yeah, exactly.
I do love to ask my guests this question. And it's, basically, we set out, we plan our year, our lives, whatever, and we set goals and everything like that. But I'd love to know, what is a legacy that you're looking to leave, whether it be this year or as a lifetime?
Oh, that's a good question. So for this year, I theme my years by a word. And last year it was fun, and it was a fun year for us. This year it's home, because I really feel that I am really coming home to who I was always meant to be, more than I have any other year. And I'm also having fun doing it, but it just feels so authentic and so real. And I don't feel that there's missing pieces where I feel afraid to show it to the world anymore. I'm just like, yeah, this is me. And I am all aspects of me. I'm not just one aspect. And so if you go on my Instagram page, you'll see pictures of my kids, because that is me, right? And you'll see my running, because that is me. And I talk about all aspects of what I am and what I enjoy, because I want people to be attracted to all of it, not just be like, well, I like this part of her, but that doesn't really fit in. So home is a big thing. But as for legacy, my mission is just to be that lighthouse. Like I really feel that above everything else, and it doesn't matter where I go. If I go to the grocery store, I'll hold the door open and I'll give whoever it is, a compliment or a smile, because you never know what that effect can be on somebody's day or what kind of a day that they're having. And I remember when I had that realization probably about a decade or so ago, and I realized that, even in traffic, you can be in traffic and someone can cut you off, and you can be light or you can be more darkness. And if you want to be more darkness, you could honk at that person. And if you think, like I remember sitting in traffic thinking about the effect of, okay, I honk at this person, so then they're irritated, and then they cut the next person off, which causes an accident. And that accident, then the person goes home feeling ashamed. Then they take it out on their kids. And I'm thinking, that all happened because I honked at somebody? Never again will I do that out of anger, because that poor child didn't deserve to have that anger taken out on them. And we don't realize that, right? But it also can work in the reverse, where we can be that light to somebody who might need it. And that might also protect, because my thing's always kids, that also might protect that child from being yelled at or beaten that night, just because you made that person's day just a tiny bit better. Yeah. And so that's my legacy, is no matter where I go, if I'm doing business consulting, if I'm doing coaching, if I'm just at the store getting groceries, if I'm at the park, whatever it is, I will find an opportunity somewhere just to be a light, to make somebody's life just a little bit better. Because especially right now, people need it more than ever.
That's really a beautiful legacy to leave. You have been fabulous to talk to today, Rachael. You've been amazing. And, through this whole conversation, I've had a lot of goosebump moments, and realizations, and it's actually really lovely to talk to you, and would love to have you online again sometime. Now, before we do go, though, I'd like to ask if you have any particular offer you'd like to share with our audience today.
Well, it depends what their flavor is. I guess I have on my website is a free self-love. It's a 5-day challenge, but it's really a downloadable ebook with a guided meditation. Mm-hmm. And so what it really is it's 5 videos. So you can just listen to it as you're getting ready in the morning kind of thing. 5 stories that just help you to start thinking about really what would self-love actually feel like, and what is the power of it, and how does it affect every area of our life. And so it just kind of gets the wheels turning. And then with the guided meditation, the reason that I designed it that way is because for so many of us, it's such a foreign concept. And it's kind of like one of those icky concepts. To me, I danced around it forever where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do it one day, right? But when you start realizing it permeates into every area of your life, it affects every area of your life. So the meditation is called the cloak of self-love. And so what it's like is putting on a cloak, and as it's wrapped around you, then I'll ask questions of, what would you do different in your life that you're not doing right now? Who would you be? What kind of things have you forgotten that you enjoy doing, and how can you incorporate that into your life? So those are kind of the questions during the guided meditation. And so people with this cloak of safety, right, feeling like I don't have to justify my self-love moments or feel guilty about giving myself time, then they can just imagine what it would feel like. And even just that seems to be enough to kind of get people into a place of going, maybe I need to look a little bit deeper into this. And so for those people who do want to go a little bit deeper, right now, my current offering is a 21-day self-wealth journey, because I really am a big proponent of self-wealth, which is different than self-worth. Worth, if you look in the finance world, worth is still governed by comparison. It's always, what's your net worth? Well, it's the basis of taking your assets minus your liabilities, right? And then that's where you get your worth. It's still a comparison. And so there's still a chart that comes out every year of the most like the people who have the highest net worth, right? And so to get off that chart, it's like, well, let's focus on wealth. And what's the difference between wealth and worth? Wealth continues to invest in itself, and it pays dividends. So I tell people, invest in yourself in ways that pay dividends, and whatever that is for you. So that's what this course really is about.
So thank you so much for those details. We'll make sure that all of the links and everything like that are in the podcast summary, and you'll be able to link through it to our site as well. We'll have a short little video available of Rachael explaining and giving more definition and, to the actual offer that is available. Thank you again so much, Rachael. Make sure you do subscribe to the Wise Dome podcast. And we hope to have you back on board someday soon.
I would love that. This has been a beautiful chat. Thank you so much for being such an open space for me to share the things that light me up.
Oh, you've been wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Take care, Rachael. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Wise Dome podcast. If you enjoyed and have been inspired by this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, do subscribe and please share it with others. Post about us on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, Nikki Kelly, you can follow me on Instagram at Wise Dome Podcast, WISEDOME podcast. I'm Nikki Kelly. Thanks again, and we'll catch up next time.